She's a blue jean baby with her hat down low, chasing that wild wind wherever it blows, flying through the night just as fast as she can go. Yeah, it's one right, two left, riding like hell round that clover leaf pattern that she knows so well. Sitting just right with the reins in her hands underneath the bright lights, chasing in pins. She's one of those nobody knows out making some noise. Yeah, she's a dark horse.
Except she's on a huge horse.
He is kind of big.
He is big.
He was a 3-year-old off the track, hadn't really done a whole lot, and was able to train him before my wreck. I mean, I trained him like any other horse, you know. I want him to be able to be soft in his mouth and pay attention, you know, be round out when I ask him to move off my legs, be soft in his rib cage. I mean, just like you'd want any other barrel horse. This horse's biggest issue he's had his whole life is dropping his hind lead and just not really, you know, using his hind end like he should. He stays really on top of the ground, which for that part can be okay, but training him, I did a lot of all rights and all lefts just to make him really use his hind end, stay with it, hold that lead, and that was really my training method on him. It was kind of crazy. The winter before my wreck, I actually went to a clinic, and I went to a Shirley Ankrum clinic, and she said we needed to break down every muscle with our hands, that if your hand was here, 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 you're asking 3 different things. So I did. And how crazy that a couple months later, here I am in a position where these aren't here anymore, and he needs to know when my hand is here, 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 I'm asking 3 different things. So really retraining him, it wasn't even that hard. I mean, once I got all of this set up, that my legs didn't move in a way that he wasn't sure what I was asking, I was balanced in my saddle. It was really just kind of making runs in order to feel it out with each other. He's really sensitive to how I feel, and if I'm a little off balance, he'll move his body in order to stay underneath me. I think it's because he knows the difference. He knows that something is not like it was before. So he's 13 now, and we still do all rights and all lefts. That is still our issue of just making him engage his hind end and stay with him the whole run. I mean, other than that, everything I have has to be soft, because when all you have is your hand, you can't go in there and be, you know, lifting them here and they have nothing. You don't have a leg to reinforce anymore.
Right.
So mine have to stay really soft.
Which would make your horsemanship skills really good.
Hopefully. Hopefully that's the case. So everything I have, they also know, so my voice is also, now that I think about it. So if I cluck at my horse, they know that I'm asking them to move off, to step up, something like that, that's like just training side of life. Now, if I smooch at my horse, that's like you're using your legs. If I kiss at him, they're supposed to jump to life. So if I'm wanting him to lift, I can ask him to be lifting with his whole body, with his rib cage, with everything. If my hand is closer back here, we can do that both ways. So if my hand is nearer back here, then he knows he needs to move his whole body over. But if I want him to just move his shoulders, then I get closer up to his head and he'll move his front end over. And like, he doesn't even notice that my legs don't work. Like for him, that's what he's supposed to do. The younger one that I have, that I was starting from square one, I have a dressage whip that I use on him to reinforce where my legs are. At this point, if I carry it, I don't even ever have to use it. He just
Knows it's there.
He knows it's there. He knows the point of it. He knows to behave. This one, honestly, I didn't ever really have to do that with him. I mean, like I said, we had kind of weird how everything happens, you know, everything happens for a reason, I think, and that I'd gone to that clinic and emphasized that and trained him right before that this is how we're going to work. So he's been pretty easy to train on the barrel pattern that way, or just keep him what he is. The hardest issue we have is keeping my horses running. They, don't get me wrong, they try, but they don't try as hard as they can. So this horse will take care of me every single run. I mean, it could be any ground, anywhere, any circumstance. mud, slick, anything, and this horse will take care of me. And I can ride him hard in anything. But he does not always run as hard as he should.
And so what you're talking about is you want him to you want to be safe, but you want to win.
If I'm going to be out there, I'm there to win just like everybody else. I mean, I'm not entering to donate. I'm entering to take money home. And that's the one thing that this horse can frustrate me from time to time. And you don't ever know till we turn our first barrel. So he will run hard to my first barrel every time, which I whip to my first barrel. So I'll get up over him and I whip to my first barrel. We will run that hard every time. But when he turns that first, he decides the rest of the pattern. So he might lope the whole thing from there. And I have tried everything you can imagine. And it's just kind of up to him, whatever he decides.
And
that
the
we
fact
have
that
to deal
he's
with.
so careful with you, you can't be upset with him.
I know. I can't get mad at him.
No, because he probably,
yeah.
he's so special in his connection with you, and he's choosing to be more careful. To him, the money is not that important.
I know. How do you get mad at your horse for taking care of you?
Right.
Like, you can't. And so that's one thing that it's like, I'll come out of a run and we don't clock what we should, and I want to just be mad, but I think, okay, you know what? I came out in one piece and we're fine, and we still get to do what we love to do. So, I mean, it's kind of an adjustment thing that, anyway, I still haul him. He's the one he gets when it's a position where he needs to take care of me. Like I said, if it's mud, I would put him up against any horse out there. He is a mudder, and he will handle any of those situations. If it comes to really beautiful, great ground, I'm gonna run my young horse, because he'll run a heck of a lot harder than this one does.
He's not quite so careful yet.
No, and not that he doesn't slip or anything, but I think that, like I said, this one knows there's a difference.
This one knew you before and immediately after.
Yep.
So the other one, though, came into your life, all he knows is you.
Well, and he's felt me change.
Yeah,
So
this one has.
This one has had to feel me.
Right.
I mean, he's the one that I rode when I was working on a seatbelt and working on these Velcro straps and working on my seat and working on all these pieces. So he kind of went along that journey with me and felt it out, so we both felt good, versus, my young horse, or even my rope horse, not that my rope horse even cares, but my young horse, I got on with everything already adapted. So I got on and expected him to work, just like I would any other horse. We didn't have to go through a period together of learning.
Right, and he didn't have to relearn anything, because he learned everything he knows about the barrel pattern from you.
Right.
So that's a normal situation.
Absolutely. Which was challenging from time to time, but it worked. I mean, I guess. Last weekend we pulled that check, so it must have worked.
Yeah.
Ellie Mae, I got her when I was, maybe a junior or sophomore in high school. Anyway, so she's been my buddy for quite a while. But this dog, I'll tell you what, honestly, she's the only reason I survived that first summer after my wreck. I mean, that's the first summer since I was 7 years old that I wasn't rodeoing and riding every single day. So that's hard. I mean, this is my lifestyle. This is what I did when I woke up in the morning, and when I went to bed at night, it was what I was doing with my horses. So that first summer, like, I'd sleep in. Like, I thought the later I slept, the less of the day I had to handle. And that dog, she would come up, if she wasn't sleeping in my room, my mom would let her up. She'd come up and she would jump in my chair and sit by my bed until I would get out of bed. And she did that every day that first summer. Like, she knew that was her job, to make me get out of bed and go do anything with her. She won't get in my chair anymore. Like, that, it was only that first summer that she felt like that was her job, that was what she needed to do. She knew that she needed to get me out of bed just to do anything. And yeah, I don't know, like, that dog is so stinking smart. I mean, you've seen her all day. She hangs out right by me, wants to make sure, knows what I'm doing all the time. But yeah, I definitely credit that first summer to her.
We get to use all of our body parts to make our horse's body parts move. So she has basically joined other of his body parts to positions on his neck. So, which so the horse knows to move his whole body, and he did it. You educated him to that way about the up in the where your hand is to move his body. So I can see that. I can see how you did that. But how did you do it to the young one without being able to use your legs to move his body first? You know what I'm saying about that? Like this horse.
He already knew how to do it.
Yeah, you taught him it.
Yep,
And so then you could just use your hands. So the young one.
So the young one, he knew 2 things when I bought him. He knew how to stop and he knew how to spin. That was it. That was
no flex.
No flex. No, you touched him and he spun hard. So, and stopped hard. He was kind of hard at first because when I would try to lope him around the arena, you know, they get really sensitive to my voice. Like my horses listen to me constantly. And so if I made any noise at all, he thought I was saying whoa. So, oh my gosh, for the first month, I was every 4 strides of him just thinking, you must be saying whoa. And I'm sure then he felt me too.
Right, sitting down.
Because he thinks I'm sitting the whole time. And so that was a drag for a bit. But it hurt for a bit. So, but the lifting thing, like I said, I had a dressage whip, and I would ask him, I'd be walking along, and I'd ask him to lift, and if he took 1 step, I'd leave him. Then I'd ask him again. If he took 1 step, I'd leave him. And we did that for a long time. He's an own son of Frenchman Sky.
And you got him from Clint Robinson?
Lance.
And
Yep.
they live not far from here.
Yep, they live on the other side of that mountain. And so I'd been bugging him about a horse for a long time because they raise Frenchman Guy's horses. And so finally he said, I think I've got one that'll work. And he had 2 for me to try. So I went out there, and this was the first one I got on. And he was a little nervous because he said, this one is kind of a little fire in him. He's a little hot, you know, but he said he's broke, but he's hot. And I said, oh, that's fine. So I got on him and loped him, and I could feel he had a little bit of fire in him, but I said, like I said, he could stop and he could spin. But the other horse was dog quiet. I mean, nothing bothered it. Didn't even look at my chair, nothing. So he thought I'd want that one. I said, I don't even need to get on that one. Like, this is the one that I need that has a little more fire in it. This is the one that I think is gonna work with me. So he's the one I took. Yep, last weekend, I guess, would have been like his year mark. Seems just about fitting to win my first pro rodeo check at the year mark. These have lasted, but man, they're still sticky. And so I got these when I started legs, and I've had him, let's see, I started running him last June. So I've been running him a year, and these are the only pair of boots I've used. And they are still, I mean, that sticky. Like yeah. I don't know what else to say about that.
I'm sure people who see you run a good run that looks pretty good, they're just like, oh, awesome. And you're probably thinking, but then she's like,
because I get that all the time.
Right. But this time it was
legit.
A clocked time.
It was actually legit.
It wasn't just because they were proud of you for doing it.
No, there's this sweet little, her name is Brandy Giles. I love her. She's a trainer around here. But every single run, I could hit all 3 barrels, and she'll be like, you did awesome. And I'll be like, Brandy, like we hit barrels. She's like, I don't even care. So I get that all the time. Like I can make it, which, okay, don't get me wrong. I love that people are so kind and sweet to me. So, you know, I'll come out and I'll have tipped a barrel or didn't run good, and everyone's like, you're so cool. And I'm like, okay, thanks. You know, that's awesome. But, you know, like I want to win like everybody else.
So you obviously have a feel for the horses, even what you see in them. And the sorrel that's standing over there didn't work for your program, so you've passed him off to your sister there. So tell us a little bit about that.
So, first of all, this is my little sister. This is my little sister, Autumn. I've got, there's 6 kids in my family, and she's the only one that I have addicted to horses like me. So that's been a neat thing to be able to share with her. I mean, it's one thing to do what you love, but it's a cooler thing to share what you love with people that you love too. So I've kind of, tried to make her my right-hand woman. And she's had to go through a lot with, before my accident, I did everything. I did the saddling, the training, the everything, and then all of a sudden it was a role reversal after my accident that she had to become the one that saddled and the one that did all the chores and everything like that. So we've kind of had to work together on that, even when it came to training horses. So this horse I got, he's a 4-year-old now, and I've started him. He's really quiet, really nice, but I don't think he's going to be quite my style. I hate to admit that, I really do, because before my accident, I would have never said there was such a thing. Every horse was my style. I didn't care what style it was, we were gonna work. I've had to make a few adjustments, not only physically, but mentally in that area of life. So I started him on the pattern and was loping him through, and he wants to rate and turn super hard. 1, my back doesn't handle that super well, and 2, we were going to be tipping a lot of barrels in the long run for him to just be like that. So I threw her on him. She's pretty handy, and she can use her legs when she's supposed to. So it's working, like the very first day I put her on him and put her on the barrel pattern, and I was telling her what, I wanted her to do some all rights and all lefts, and then loping through the pattern and keep everything really big. And after watching her ride him, I thought, yep, this is definitely the right decision. Because even just watching her ride him versus what I felt, I knew that was not going to be something that was going to work for me, but would be great for her.
And the style thing is really with everybody. You don't have to feel bad about saying that, because people have a style that they do their best with. I mean, when you're training a bunch of futurity colts, you do have to make that work. But I think at these rodeos, people that make it to the top of that food chain have their style of horse underneath them.
I'm going to hold on to that then.
Legacy has been a huge blessing to us because I watch her train him, and so I can watch her train him, and it helps me learn to become a trainer, because that's how I want to be when I'm older, just like her, to train horses. And he's a different style compared to Power, and watching her be able to switch styles has been really cool to watch. Oh, so proud. Every day I can just look at her and be like, oh, I just want to be just like that, because I look up to her so much that just watching her proceed and do what she loves and be super good at it is just so awesome and such a role model to me.
We rolled a little by my first, but I don't really worry about that because he comes back so strong that even this one rolls a hair by my first, but they're so snappy that I don't worry a lot about that. But he actually ran across pen super nice. I felt like I could have rode him a little better, but I think we all probably feel like that from time to time. So
Every time?
Yeah, I feel like I could ride a little better across pen in general. That's my weak spot in my run for sure. He went to roll a little by second, so I got on him a little harder than I normally do, but he was running, so I was fine with that, and he didn't care anyway. And smoked third, that's normal for him. He smokes his third every time. And when we run across the I knew we finally put together a run. And we've been on and off. Colts are so frustrating.
It is frustrating.
Because they give you this glimmer of hope, and then they suck for 10 runs. And then they give you this glimmer of hope. Well, we were needing the glimmer of hope run, because we'd been doing a half dozen runs that I just left that arena going, what are we doing? We either could run or we could turn, but we could not get these together. So finally, when I crossed that eye, I'm like, okay, I can feel good about it. I didn't even hear my time. Had no idea what I'd run. You couldn't hear the announcer because it was just in Slack, so I didn't hear anything. And I go out, and who was standing there? I'm gonna have to think about that maybe. Anyway, she said, holy smokes, nice run. And I'm like, well, what did I run? I'm like, thank you, I sure felt fine, but what did I run? And she's like, you're a 6. like, you're like sitting like 3rd or 4th right now. And of course I'm like, oh my God, like I just want to start crying because I don't know, I felt like, holy smokes, our hard work is actually coming together. And I realized it only happened one time so far, but it gave me that, okay, you know what? If I can do it once, I can do it 25 million more times. Because I don't know, like I just thought, you know what? Even though I'm strapped to this saddle, even though my legs don't work, I couldn't even kick my horse through that run. Even though I had to just use my hands and I get off into a wheelchair, we still clocked with all those girls.